This is not merely a building. It's a sanctuary of remembrance, a threshold where the veil parts, and minds once lulled to sleep begin to rise. This is the house of reawakening minds.
I entered in silence, intellect and despair, seeking refuge from illusions thick in the air. Walls lined with scrolls, lectures dense with light, where knowledge resurrects what was hidden from sight. No pulpit performance, no charismatic show, just a word in its purity, allowing the soul to grow. History unpacked with surgical precision, exposing falsehood, restoring vision. They taught me jurisdiction, the power of a name, how to stand in one's truth, free from legal games, from colonial codes to Moorish descent. I learned that ignorance is the true imprisonment. Not just a church, this is consciousness refined. I found myself inside the house of.
This is sacred ground, not just wood and stone. A haven for the seekers who once felt alone. Here the veil is lifted, the contract unwinds. In the house of reawakening minds. Truth is the altar, wisdom is the flame. Every soul remembered, every bloodline reclaimed. Time collapses and the spirit aligns. Inside the house of reawakening
We
minds.
speak of capitals, diminution, and trust law with grace, pulling veils from the statutes that distort the race. Reverend Doctor don't preach, she teaches through metaphysical keys and universal speeches. From Egypt to Amexim, maps are redrawn, and the minds of the lost are profoundly reborn. They decode etymology, undo the brands, expose how black was a corporate sleight of hand. This is reclamation through language and tone, when status is corrected and sovereigns are grown. From natural law to the astrological signs, the cosmos converge in these sacred confines. This ain't dogma, it's the science of the divine. Every lecture a seed in the garden of the mind.
You said know thyself but gave no guide, until I found the house where illusions died. Here the soul remembers, the contract is clear. We are the heirs and the ancestors cheer. This is sacred ground, not just wood and stone. A haven for the seekers who once felt alone. Here the veil is lifted, the contract unwinds. In the house of reawakening minds. Truth is the altar, wisdom is the flame. Every soul remembered, every bloodline reclaimed. Time collapses and the spirit aligns. Inside the house of reawakening.
They don't ask you to believe, only to remember. You are not lost, you've simply been rendered, redacted by systems, misclassified by law. But the house restores what the paper man saw. It's not just theology, it's the restitching of fate, the alignment of cosmos with your birthright state. Genealogy meets metaphysics, past meets now. The veil is a lie and this house shows how. They speak a treaty, jurisdiction and name, that being black was never a rightful claim. They restore divine memory through patience and fire, raising minds from bondage in the conscious empire. No choir needed when the frequency's high. It's the house where illusions die.
House of reawakening minds, where scholars become sages and the forgotten reclaim the eternal.
Happy Holy Day, Moors. Welcome to the House of Reawakening Minds. House of Reawakening Minds exists to provide for the exploration and practice of spirituality in an enlightened community dedicated to honoring the myriad of sacred pathways to the universal creator. We are an awakening center for spiritual grounding, free thought, self-discovery, and more science, a learning experience for all ages. All ages, actually. We're coming to you right now. You will not believe what we just went through, but we're here. It was a, you will not believe it. Just don't. Can you believe? Can you believe that? I hope you can hear us. Let me make sure that we're not muted or anything, because the way crazy stuff is going today. I hope you can hear us. But anyway, look at this. Tonight's broadcast is titled, Are We Being Played? Psy-Opportunities. Psy-Opportunities, yeah. Now, you know, that wordplay Grand Sheik, is intentional. Because when people hear the phrase psyops, they usually think about psychological operations and attempts to influence people, how they think, how they feel, or to respond to events.
And that's not totally wrong either.
Right. But tonight we're looking at a little differently, because when narratives begin flooding the environment like they are right now, the headlines, the controversies, the crises, the mysteries, those moments can also become Psy-Opportunities. Opportunities to pause and observe the pattern, because there's always a pattern, instead of reacting to the signal. I know I got the camera turned.
In other words, you can learn from them, counter.
Right. I find where the camera is. And sometimes, when you step back and observe long enough, you start asking a simple question or two. Are we just watching events unfold, or are we being played? Like, back in the day, somebody might say, oh, they played you like a bass fiddle.
Like a fiddle. Yeah, fiddling with your mind.
So now, before we get deeper into tonight's discussion, I want to address something that some of you probably noticed. I don't know if you can see it, because I see this, let me I guess you know this. All right.
Yeah.
I can't see it per se, because we've been trying to get. Can y'all see my sweatshirt? I hope you can. Anyway, the sweatshirt that I'm wearing tonight it says one word on the front. Allegedly. Last time we were on, I think I kept saying allegedly. Anyway. And that word is doing a lot of work tonight. It is, because everything we're discussing this evening, the patterns we observe, the timing of events, the narrative circulating through the through the media, they're all our observations and our opinions, right? And nothing we say tonight is being presented as legal or lawful accusation. Everything we're discussing tonight is alleged, right? But sometimes when you observe long enough, patterns begin to reveal themselves. And so before we get into specific examples of what people like yourselves, some of you have been seeing, we've been seeing in the news lately, it's helpful. It's really good to really understand something about how information environments work, because influencing public perception is not a new idea. De facto government, along with their military institutions and intelligence agencies, corporations, and certainly their media, they've all done it, and they do it. Not only have they done it, they do it, and they've stepped it up. And sometimes they moved from was very clandestine to the obvious at a ridiculous level. I mean, like they think we're stupid, like we've gotten stupider, instead of the fact that they know we are more intelligent, more perceptive, we see more, know more, right? But the concept is often referred to as psychological operations. Y'all probably know that. And so if they can influence how people interpret, in events, they can influence really explore not only how they interpret it, but how we respond. How we respond to those events. They can do that. So which is why tonight we're playing with that phrase Psy-Opp-ortunities, because every time narratives begin flooding the environment, it creates an opportunity to both observe and to ask questions. Really.
Yes,
it really
and
does.
Also to apply critical thinking.
Right. Yeah. So
now the studies of perceptions, as an example, right, Dr. T, and narratives influence, goes back much further than most people generally think of or realize.
Right.
So long before the modern phrase psychological operations became commonly used as a as a social engineering tool, de facto government operations became common de facto or military institutions in their applications in the social structure. And they were already studying long ago how information and nuances of how things are stated, how they influence behavior. And a great example of that, as an example, because we're talking about Psy-Opp and opportunities, an example of that is Executive Order 11490, issued October of 1929 against Aboriginal people at North America. And just as a short intro, so to be on point, like when this is an example directly from their operations of government, right? Like on page 52 of Executive Order 11490, right, coming from the United States Corporation Company, right? Summary, they state this is U.S. government document that I'm reading from at this time. Summary: the people hire politicians so that the people can, 1, obtain security without managing it; 2, obtain action without thinking about it; 3, inflict theft, injury, and death upon others without having to contemplate either life or death; 4, avoid responsibility for their own intentions; 5, obtain the benefits of reality and science without exerting themselves in the discipline of facing or learning either of these things. And they give politicians the power to create and manage a war machine to, 1, provide for the survival of the nation / womb; 2, prevent encroachment of anything upon the nation / womb; 3, to destroy other citizens of their country or who do not conform.
Oh yeah, those citizens, not others.
Yes. And this is an example of actual Psy-Opp.
Doesn't it sound like right now?
But it is.
Right now.
But this ain't allegedly.
And
This is their own documents, actually. But this is an example of Psy-Opp.
Right.
In actuality, as opposed to us just saying, well, whatever our opinion is, this is exactly and in fact operative Psy-Opp.
But you know what when you read that, what came to mind was the whole fact of the U.S. corporation being hired by the original people to do things that either they didn't feel like they could do or wanted to do of their own. And so they let somebody else run the shop for them.
And you can see the damage that we're suffering actually right now.
Absolutely.
And just this short part right here, I think just this short part right here from their own documents that supports really, this conversation you've been having with me, just this part right there, system
analysis. In order to make meaningful, computerized economic decisions about war, the primary economic flywheel, they're saying war is the primary economic flywheel. It's necessary to assign concrete logistical values to each element of the war structure, personnel and material alike. This process begins with a clear and candid description of the subsystems of such a structure. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
And so during major global conflicts, as an example, right, in the 20th century, influencing morale and perceptions became recognized as a strategic tool. Now, so this is, so that was from the...
and when was this? Yeah. This came out in,
October
1969.
That was from 1969, yes.
Right,
It was set up in actually in the 20s, and they concocted it in around 1954.
Okay.
Right.
That's why I decided to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Give some help.
And it's right on time because it's really what's going on now, and it's
Absolutely.
accelerating.
Right.
So over time, these practices became more sophisticated, and communications and research, behavioral psychology, and media modality studies all were, adopted and began to be contributing to understanding how narratives affect decision making. This has been applied to society, right? So today, psychological operations are often associated with military strategies, but the broader concepts, are simply the management of perceptions through methods and means used to artfully modify and distribute information. And propaganda is the most potent and commonly associated tool with the, with these controlling the narratives and used to suppress rational thinking. And once the natural people, start thinking and get a comprehension and understanding that perception can be influenced, they may begin to pay closer attention to how information is controlled and environments are constructed. Another thing people, rarely consider is that influences do not or does not always require deception. Sometimes influence happens through emphasis, how things are emphasized.
Yeah.
And
they just infer.
Yeah. And connotative linguistics as a social engineering tool is often deliberately used to this effect. And you can look at it from the perspective of, what receives attention, what receives emotional framing, etc. And human beings respond strongly to what they read, sometimes what they hear, and what they encounter repeatedly.
Yeah.
And when certain social, political, and philosophical narratives are emphasized constantly, they begin shaping how people interpret reality. So thoughts, influences, etc. often occurs not only through what is said, but also through what is emphasized. Yeah. What say you, Dr. G?
Well, let me just shift the lens for a moment, right? Because alongside you always talk about geopolitics. So this geopolitical narratives and the social controversy, there's another pressure that many of us are feeling increasingly every day, and that's economic pressure. I was just as we were getting ready, for tonight, I had talk radio on, because talk radio, you can always hear a lot of things that it's like right now, because they're talking right now, right? And I don't even know who it was, but the guy was saying, for instance, they were Republican, talking about what's going on, from the economic standpoint of oil and gas prices, right? And that if gas prices are, $90-some a barrel come November, that the Republicans were going to be cooked, because people use the economics as a barometer or a guide as to which way they're gonna, they're gonna go, and
how they play the people's mind with the Whiggamore parties, whether they're dealing with the cotton Whigs or the conscience Whigs, which is Democrats and Republicans. That's who they really are, but
right. So, like I said, a lot of us right now feel like our purchasing power isn't what it used to be. Well, we know it isn't what it used to be, and rightfully so. We have a right to feel that way. I know, because prices are rapidly increasing. I think, for instance, even though it wasn't a part of this thing, but when Dollar Tree, I can't get away from that. When Dollar Tree went from everything's, they changed the name from Everything's a Dollar to Dollar Tree, because I know that the tree was going to be getting broader. So when Dollar Tree raised their prices by a quarter, now
25%,
that was a 25%, and then
they be telling you 6%,
and then they turned around and put another 25% on top of that, so it made it a 50%, because now the base stuff $1.50.
Yeah.
And then they got stuff in there that I saw, picked up something and scanned, and it was 10. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You look at you go to the store, the things are smaller as far as capacity, but the prices are
by volume, yes,
just
amount.
I was coming down the street the other day, day before yesterday. No, I'm sorry, last night. You know, up the street, where we coming down from where you like to get the fish.
Yeah.
So that gas station. I was like, oh my goodness, this is
right there on the corner.
Yeah, no, I said that's the only gas station that's $2.99, because when I went up, Louis was up for fucking on 202. You know, it was like 309, 310, or something like that. I said it's the only gas station that's $2.99. That was last night. I came down this morning, it's $3.29.
Yes. And
so it jumped up 30 cents in overnight.
Guess what? Just before we came upstairs, they're talking about in areas it's already $8.
Oh, you know.
Right. I'm talking about now.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
that's in the Cali area.
I'm glad that we are. But you know, our wages, the problem is that the wages and our income, they don't rarely, they never increase commensurate with the way the prices are going up.
And keep this in mind, income really never really applied to people or wages. They only apply to foreign corporations. That word income has also been misplaced. That's also part of the deception.
Whatever you get, whatever you get for doing what you do.
Compensation.
And it may not be
illusionary compensation is not income.
And it may not be compensation.
They've been lying in order, because remember they did that to taxes. Right. If we didn't contest it, you know, it's sort of like when we were talking about fiduciary issues. You know, they put that in the society and say it's income, and the people start repeating it, and the average person when they work never have an income, because income specifically by law only applies to not corporate capital investment, but the profit made by corporate operation in a foreign port. The profit is the only thing that's income.
And you know, they say they really made that clear. Well, no, they made that clear. I pulled this up, the 1917 war tax guide. But now I was told by another Moor that does taxes that this they're trying to deny the validity that this, you know,
it's unconstitutional. It never was constitutional. So that validity, because remember, the validity or the non-validity is measured by law. Constitution and treaty is the law. You know, and so this is the issue of even part of what, you know, like when you're talking about the Epstein stuff, right? It really shows that in fact, in detail, right, that the government operatives are de facto. And the whole platform is treasonous.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why they're trying to protect it. That's an interjection, but that's the truth.
Well, we were listening, and we heard the Sheik that was speaking with Dr. Pruitt today. I guess it was today, but we saw today talking about all of the things that Trump is trying to do or doing that you know would say that the income tax is illegal. That
it's unlawful.
Unlawful. Excuse me.
Unconstitutional.
That we're going to have external. They're looking at external tax because the taxes were supposed to be for things external from the people. Right.
That's corporate. See, in other words, the word income. You know, because we talked about this before, Dr. G. Income doesn't apply to the people. They've been lied to.
Right.
And the excise tax don't apply to the people. They've been lied to.
As well as the tax or property tax.
All because now, and that's what we talked about. And so what's happening really is that middle class Europeans, now that they have pretty much destroyed the middle class, they're telling that's where you see these arguments coming from. But the tax was never lawful in the first place. But it was also used as a political tool to gentrify neighborhoods of people for decades.
Wow.
But it was, how do you say, targetedly used on certain people.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they pretty much destroyed the middle class, these arguments about that tax, even though many of the Aboriginal people always knew it and made the arguments, they're being heard now because middle class Europeans are making the argument, but it's not something new and it's not something that was unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that people thought that wages were income and then they were paying income tax was part of the propaganda that was used as a war tool, targeting the people, and the people didn't know that that's part of the propaganda. They really believe that they have income and actually started signing contracts saying that I have income
to guarantee certain
and
things.
they've been robbing people. This is another, get back to point. It's another thing why they're trying to hide because what the Epstein thing does, it unravels because it's evidenced by their own hand that they're corrupt. Not only that, it also proves that the people that are claiming to be government are really faces for the real people who are running government, which I told you before. What the Epstein really is, who really owns it, who really owns the corporation. And it goes right into what we've been saying for decades, but it's just what it is.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people, with the costs rising like they are, people call that theft.
By design.
Well, by design or using
they use the word. They use the word inflation.
Inflation. Yeah.
What it really is, it is a robbery tax used by corrupt government, and and that ain't allegedly.
Well,
but continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. So. But what do you say about that?
So but those economic pressures that just like when you're talking about the gas, right? That have always been psychologically used or had a psychological effect on society, and this is not accidental at all. It's deliberate, and it's invoked. And when people begin feeling uncertainty, they actually are responding to actuality of pressures that are put on them economically about their financial stability. Their emotional state changes and they become more cautious and sometimes, more reactive and sometimes more willing to accept solutions that they might question under more calmer circumstances if they were thinking. And why? Because economics is logically connected to survival. And when survival feels uncertain, fear can easily enter into, one's thoughts and conversations.
Yeah, that's true. And I was thinking about you, as you were saying what you're saying, I was thinking about my parents. Probably you could go back, y'all could yours or so forth. My mother was a domestic worker. So she might have made, she was a domestic worker. She cleaned people's houses. Yeah. And she cleaned more than one. Mm-hmm. And my stepfather, who raised me, was a gas station attendant. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. So they combined probably didn't make a month what I was making, and when I retired, probably in a week. Right? Yeah. But yet and still, they were able to buy a home at that time.
The value,
yeah, they were able to buy a home in which I was 6 years old. I'm going to be 71, so my niece is still residing in that home. April's there today. Mm-hmm. They not only they buy a home, but they provided. There was never a time when there was no food on the table or no. Mm-hmm. Nice, something not nice, but something to wear that was attractive or mm-hmm. whatever. I mean, what I'm trying to say is things were even from a standpoint quality. I think the quality may have even been greater than of what we?
No, I think it was.
Okay, so the quality of what we had was better and greater, and the worry and the the thought of lack, like I was saying in the class I was in the other day. I said I didn't.
You know what you're
I didn't know I was poor.
You know what
if
you're
we
identifying?
Were poor, I didn't know. I feel more poor now.
You're identifying what they call inflation. Yeah. In other words, even as we're talking about this, right? The affirmation of actually the conversation that you're having with me, right, is actually played out. Inflation is the cover for actually what you're saying. As an example, when I was 19, right, and I got matrimony at 19, right, with my high school girlfriend, that's Hannibal's mother, right, at a Chrysler Imperial Crown, paid for, right? That car cost more than the Cadillac then. And I had a Chrysler 300, wasn't finished paid for, but I only owed $600 on it. Both of them cars, if I had both of them cars right now, those cars together would be around $300,000 for both of them cars right now. Right now, that 300, I think it was a J, because they're lettered cars, right? It was a 413, and that was called the businessman's sports damn what anyway, and the Chrysler Imperial, and I had both of those cars. I couldn't afford them cars now, and I was poor, right? Yeah. My furniture was Van Sciver.
JB Van Sciver.
Yeah, JB Van Sciver down there at the waterfront where the aquarium is right now. I couldn't afford that furniture now. My dining room drawers were lined with blue velvet. That dining room set at that time cost around close to $3,000. Wow. At that time, right? But I worked at Van Sciver's, and so I got reduction. But at the same time, I couldn't afford that stuff now. That same set then, right now, would probably cost around $10,000, $12,000. You know, but what that indicates is inflation. But people don't know that words are used to cover up corruption. And in fact, as we're looking at, just like we're talking about the gas and everything, that's what's really actually going on. So the people ain't really feeling it, it's really happening. What's happening is that people are looking at, one, what they're told a dollar is not what a dollar is. That's number one. So you got to go to the coinage act to see what a dollar is, distinguished from what they tell you that it is, which is propaganda, which is actually a private commercial instrument belonging to the Circle Church and Chancery, right? Who owns a United States corporation company that's really a private corporation operated from Davos, Switzerland, right? That the people have been told since 1862 is the country, when actually it's a corporate operation operating on the land, but is not America, but is referred to as America. So you can see the mind control that's right there. Right. What I just said right now, the average person out there is not familiar with what I just now said, but what I just said is not allegedly, it's the truth. Wow.
Well, you know what, that leads me, to another layer that people have been talking about lately, and that's technology. Technology, because the artificial
technocracy,
artificial intelligence, the automation, and the growing influence of digital, systems over everything we do now is being digitized. So we're hearing conversations about AI replacing human labor, and they have these algorithms, like even with what we're doing, algorithm driven. People say make sure you like, and we say it, like and share, because it helps the algorithm, helps the YouTube, put our videos and stuff up further because, they're tracking everything, right? The systems, their digital censorship, because we know we've been censored on, and depending on what we saying and talking about, it either flies or it sinks, based on that. And like you said, technocracy. So along, with the possibility really of decision making becoming more managed on a technological, managed not on a not so much at the technological level, but technological systems rather than human communities, that we totally out of the of equation of what's going on. Now they want people to go to the town meetings and and voice their, they don't, what computers are not going to hear you. AI is not going to hear you like that and say, I have compassion on the fact that it's too much on you all to comply with this new law or rule we done passed down. They're just going to, as programmed, make decisions without the human element at all, involved in that. Right. And for some, it's a scary proposal. It really is.
Now, you know what, Dr. G? It's to cover up their corruption continue.
Yeah, because I also recently learned, and we mentioned it, something interesting, and that was that there was, several years ago, there was a bunch of, I guess, billionaires and elitist technocrats, if you will. They kind of were discussing the idea of a world that would be managed primarily through technological systems that would eventually result in this, one world government, the so-called government that they've been talking about, but it would be a technocracy, and not governments, if you will, in a traditional sense, but systems, the digital system, data.
This is their brief.
It's in
this. No, this is their brief on it.
Right.
Meaning that they even made it, even though they deliberately expose this. This was actually exposed by someone who drew it off computers that was supposed to be wiped. Mm-hmm. That was that guy. They locked him up. But this is exactly what you're saying in their own words. Right.
Right. So really, it raises the question whether or not we are witnessing something that's entirely new, which we know we see that now, or are we watching the next stage really of a trajectory that was a vision and set in motion a long time ago? But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I know you say a little bit, but
well, the technocracy actually is Executive Order 11490, to put it as far as what's available to the public, that anybody can. That's available to people who read, right? So the
other word for that would be the silent weapons for quiet wars.
Silent weapons, executive order for quiet weapons, silent weapons for quiet wars.
Right.
That's actually a military operation that's operative
right now.
And so when we're talking about the gas now, they were what you talked about and what we just mentioned earlier when we looked at when you got up this morning and got gas. They set that up in 1954. Mm-hmm. And so the point of it is all they're doing is carrying it out.
Right.
And so people need to comprehend that the technocracy is part of the warring against the people that the people never suspect because they're busy working, right? Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like when you and just like you talk about opportunity, right? So opportunity is also when you become aware of a trap, you have also the intellectual opportunity to work to the limit that you can to avoid the trap. Right. So, the technocracy emerged in the early 20th century when the engineers and scientists social scientists began exploring the idea that society could be organized through technical expertise mechanisms and measurement systems. And the concept itself was not inherently harmful in its principle, if used positively. But of course, technology can improve efficiency. Also, technology can improve coordination and structures. But when technological systems, as you saw right there, begin influencing economics, governance, and information simultaneously, if used negatively, those systems become extremely powerful to the injury of the people. Therefore, ethical usages and applications of such tools should always be conjoined with thoughtful considerations, and powerful tech systems require cognate awareness from the people living within them. And unfortunately, many people are not.
And as folks grow older, sometimes they are not prone to want to, move, advance in those types of things. So then they lose. I mean, you would think in terms of, say even with folks on Social Security or something, and now they're saying, oh, you have to do everything on the computer, and somebody's, not like you, they can,
that's part of the war operations.
Right.
See, now this is the deal. What you're seeing is them rolling out. They're actually rolling out this.
Right.
I mean, and this is back to, like we talked before, Dr. G, one of the things that they've always done is they tell you what they're going to do to you, but it's not in time sequence, in which is why most people aren't prepared.
Mm-hmm.
But from a karmic position, this is why they do stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when people have information like that available to them, usually it's a handful of people that take this stuff serious, and the masses are moving on with their lives, and decades pass before it catches up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like negative projection. This is a negative projection, and it's operative. And it's current because it's active right now. But the plan for it, as far as organized plan, 54, right? And so the more daily life becomes integrated with technological infrastructure, the more people rely on these systems, just like you say. And they do not, these systems, they don't personally control. But the digital issue is actually part of the enslavement, because it goes like that, which means the same problems that we were having when you started the show, right? What'd you say?
Oh my.
Whoa! Now, this is your computer. You do this often, and it actually became a strange tool for you for about 15 minutes.
Yeah. Thought we were gonna not go live, y'all. It was that bad. It was that bad.
Now, but the same thing is applied to the economics, which is what's happening right now, which is why years ago I told you get silver, because I already knew they're going to do this. But they told you they're going to do this. It's interesting, Dr. G, when you look at the the electric grids, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we have no control over, right? The digital communications that we have no control over, and the financial networks, which is why the nations have stopped buying the bonds. And so if you knew these things were coming, even though we're all affected by it, that's an opportunity for you to make adjustments before people who don't pay attention to these things, who go about, and this is why people are caught,
mm-hmm.
right? So with the AI, what the AI is really, Dr. G, on multiple levels?
You know what?
AI is used as a cover for them discarding people in mass, even though the agent systems aren't all structured in place. They can use the AI as an excuse for firing and letting people go in mass numbers to cover up the fact that what I told you, what 7 years ago, the nation's going to stop buying U.S. Treasury bonds.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Government, de facto government produces nothing. It's parasitic. But the people are not to know it's parasitic. So people psychologically keep thinking government has money and things to give them when actually it steals from them. Epstein, that's again that, including people going to find out who really owns the United States corporation. This is why they're hiding it. They think they're looking at a whole bunch of other things that it really isn't, Dr.
I heard somebody say on a talk show, a little piece of it at the end, the guy said, he was my European, and he said, if you knew who was behind, I think he said Bitcoin, it was Bitcoin. If you knew, he said, I can't even, he said, I know, but if you knew, he said, everybody that had it would discard it immediately.
They've been taken.
He said that he said if you knew who was really behind it, because we talk, I don't know if it was you and I talking or somebody else and I talking, but somebody, I had a conversation and we were talking about the fact that all of these, all
the digital stuff,
not just the digital stuff. We were talking about how, allegedly, two or three guys in a garage created the Apple computer, and allegedly this college,
it was DARPA.
This college guy created Facebook, and all they are faces, just like it said, you hire politicians to do what their faces put on the outside of a package that was created by somebody else.
No, DARPA and CIA.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's who created. That's
as a way to get into.
Remember, I told you before, Dr. J. I told you years ago. They've been doing digital transfers since the 20s among themselves and among governments. It was introduced to the public later. And so the public thinks it's new, but it's actually done to take the power of any physical control of your economics out of your hand, whether fiat or lawful. It's actually, the digital system is being used as a tool against the people because they can shut you out. No different than you were shut out of this computer. Totally familiar with you. And you were running around almost as if you didn't notice the machine. Going through routine stuff. But what did that really tell you, Dr. G? Exactly what you were discussing with me today, that you're talking about right now. The experience tells you not only what's happening, but it might have been just divine to show you what they're doing
and what's capable, what can be done. Yeah.
Now you see why I told you get silver? And guess what? Now they're going to start freezing people's accounts that are not theirs and never was theirs on the double ledger, which I told you, right? Then they'll say AI did it because the so-called them same people, elites, are running the banks right now.
Wow. Yeah.
And they know it's coming. But anyway.
Yeah, they're telling people. I heard people say, I went to the bank to take something out, and they said I have to make an appointment, and I can't take that much out, but I have to make an appointment, come back tomorrow or in 2 days to get.
You're not even taking it out. But look at this. Look at this, Dr. J. They're constricting the credits because they don't even give you money. They give you credits against the alleged bookkeeping ledger that's actually your loan to the credit of them. So you're a creditor to them by loan. And the account is not yours, it's theirs. That's why they're going to bail in. Because they hold you as simply a what you call a partner by loan in the bank. That's not what they tell you, but that's what it is. So whatever ventures they do legally, not lawfully, legally, you sanctioned it by loaning them And they told you that you're putting something in your account, but it's actually a loan to them. And so that is an unsecured loan from you to them to use as they will. And they're doing it, and that's what's really happening. So the AI is covering up. This is what it's covering up. A part of this ain't all of it. It's covering up that their ventures are collapsing. They've failed. And they failed because the numbers that they've generated are totally artificial, just like the fiat is artificial. And it is compounded until it has no value of trust acceptance, which is why the nations are dumping the bonds, which I told you they were going to do. So by default, they can't stop the collapse.
I was
AI is the cover.
Yeah, okay. And we keep saying that, we keep hearing things have collapsed, that they are no longer in control, and Trump's doing this and Trump's doing that. But I heard that they, and I'm talking about that same group, including Trump, went established what they call the United States Republic, LLC, and incorporated it in London. Right? This is what I've heard. And y'all can check this out, but I heard this within the last 2 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. And took that, whatever that entity is, in front of, I don't know, the World Court or something, to try to regain control, if you will, of the resources that we're hearing have been collected from around the world, that they, so it's like,
all right, without me knowing, meaning that what you're sharing with us right now, I've got to do some research on that. Okay. However, I already know by the nature of what you're just saying what's happening. Understanding the geopolitics. Mm-hmm. One, this is why it's very important. And a lot of times when we're talking, and I'll say to you, Dr. G, don't forget, the United States is a private corporate entity that has been propagated to the people as the country. It is not, was not, will not ever be. That whole platform was to steal the aggregate assets of the people of the land, distinguished from the corporation. They merged them. That's what the straw man is. Mm. So the straw man is to artificially make the people who don't contest it, i.e. stock of the corporation, as a corpse themselves, and a ward of the instrumentality. And this is what Roosevelt was doing. This is what the Pope and the Bar Association does with the marriage certificates. And this is what they secondarily did after that with the birth certificate, with the 33 so-called bank holiday, with the 2 executive orders done by Roosevelt to refinancialize their dead bankrupt corporation. And this is what Traficant, that I've always told you about, did on the floor of the Congress when he talked about the hypothecation. All of that is also part of what is veiled in the Epstein. I'm continuing.
So I'm listening.
Know where I'm going with it.
Look, y'all, I'm listening to him, so I'm going a different way with my thoughts. But I've heard you say this a lot over the years.
Why? Now you're seeing it.
Almost 15 years of association.
You're seeing it.
But what I was thinking, what I heard you say, how you hear something and then they say you or see something and they go see it again for the first time, because now you have different.
You're comprehending it now because it's out there.
Right. So what I'm seeing is that the creation of the birth certificates and the marriage licenses
were bonds.
That's what I say. We're like, when I formed a corporation, of course, you know, they ask you, do you have stocks? So we made a non-stock corporation. But in their case, we were the stock, are the stock, not were, are the stock.
By those
so
contracts.
They securitized.
That's what they are. They are the sureties. And this is back to even, you know, like when, you know, like, you know, just like when you do the flash drive, right? And you know, so many things we talk about, Dr. J, so many things, disciplines that you have, so many things that you study, a lot of things that you know, and disciplines that you know that don't necessarily come through when we do these videos, because we have a lot of things that we could talk about. Yeah. But our focus is really trying to redeem the estates of the people. And so we channel most of our areas from a social, political, metaphysics, and metaphysical perspective, trying to help where we can with limited time and communications. Right. However, I know, you know, that you have a broad band of information and knowledge that people don't even know that you know, that I know that you know, if you get the point. Meaning that we could do a lot of videos just for the sake of videos, but we don't operate that way here at the House of Reawakening Minds. We look for curative things. But the point that I'm making to you is that the things that are hitting the people right now, and you'll see why that I chose certain things that I put in that study class on the flash drive.
Oh, okay.
That's why they are there. They are for now. And like a lot of times when you see, when I would say, when people would ask you questions, they, you know, it's like sometimes you'll say to me, someone wants to have a conversation with you, and I say, I've already given it to them.
Right, you say that all the time.
You know, I've already given it to them.
So you know, that's his response.
Yeah. You know, but I'm just saying, so I'd say what I would say: read civil orders, read the Trafficant document, read Lincoln Defends Moore. All of them deal with the status, the estate, the politics, the hypothecation, and the principle of restoration. But if they don't know the geopolitics, their mind is distracted by the narratives that are constantly put out there, no different than we knew as we were talking for the last few years. To distract people from the bond collapse, they did the Diddy thing. He did more things than a troop of men could do. They locked him up over and over and over and over again in jail, if you get the whole point. But that's really a distraction. But that's also a cover up for the corruption of the music industry, so people don't pay attention to how many deaths there were.
He's just a sacrificial lamb.
Yes, but people, listen, look again. To take away the fact that 80 to 90% of all the artists never really grew old to enjoy the fruits of their own labor.
Absolutely.
People don't pay attention to how many of them die young, and
they even made a 27 club because they were using that number to put 9 in. They were doing that 9. That means the end.
Exactly. You know, so now, and so when people are looking at this Epstein thing, they're thinking, you know, corrupted sexual abuses. They're not looking at the nuances of the whole corrupt package of political operations, past tense and current.
I see it because now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, that whole debacle was set up people in these various countries, heads of state, and to get them in compromising situations so that whoever, and I have an idea,
that's lightweight,
right? But I have an idea who the whoever is. That side, they could have a control. They had aces in the hole on everybody, so that if you had them, every room in the place, that sexual. Actual, whatever you want to call it.
That was just a tool.
It was a method. It was a method to get people compromised, and then to be able to use that to, as a pawn to, if you will, to move through situations and be in control and have people that you could control because you had something on them.
Let me tell you the greater part of what they're really trying to cover. Right? Remember, I keep telling you about the corporate papers I showed you with the re-registration in 1925 in Florida, right where Trump is right now. And I showed you the 3 men who really own the United States Corporation Company. And I would refer to, I should remember the corporate papers. Now, so that shows you their ledger keeping issues. It shows you that it's a foreign private corporation registered at Florida on the land and is not the country. The people who operate now own that same corporation and thus the stock, the people, by corporate succession. This is the confusion that people have. You can see by them controlling narrative, Trump did this, Trump did that. Trump did nothing. Trump is a mouthpiece for people who own the corporation, most of them physically domicile in Boston right now and in Brooklyn, New York. Those are the 2 main areas. Those who really own the corporation to this day, they run it. Trump is a pinata. That's what he's paid for. Now, other deal of it is, Trump is also trying to tell without being eliminated, right? Without being eliminated. No different than Obama told a little bit when he dropped that mic without being eliminated. And so they have this fight going back. That's for the public discourse. But the real puppeteers are APAC. That's a cover. Now, you want to know who really owns it and who's really doing all this stuff?
Can we say,
including them? Their cover is called lobbyist. That's their cover.
Oh, that's who works for them.
That's who really are the corporate successors of United States Corporation Company, whose papers I showed you, who really is running this and running the wars and doing the censoring and trying to block this from coming on because it's probably whatever. And it's right here. And they actually tell you, they even tell you in the beginning here, right? Hold on. Because it's not hidden. It's that people, if you, the average people, even map layout of the lands, even where women's prisons people don't even know that the prison systems they have for women, those in particular, are really all concentration camps. Right there. Never been hidden. But they ain't want to talk about it. Epstein, right? Hold on. So it says, look, silent weapon technology has evolved from operations research, OR, a strategic and tactical methodology developed under the military management of England during World War II. Now you understand when you find after the World War II, then they set up with the Khazarian mafia, that same area of the people who own the corporation. What's it called today? Israel. That's what they're hiding, because the people it become obvious that they've been running this whole thing then and now. They own it. This is why, like, you see some of the middle class Europeans now start making that tie, but they be talking about it from an emotional point of view. No, it's the fact. So, see that W.H. Brayton?
Mm-hmm.
If you look, I think in the papers, he's one of the owners. Not this guy, not Shockley, not Boarding, but Brayton. I think he's one of the ones that owns the corporation, right? Now, so immediately, what? Rockefeller, who set up the War Department, set up the General Education Board in 1902, which I told you after they murdered Winona in Philadelphia. Murdered Winona, set up the General Education Board, and that same Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, Frederick T. Gates, set up the mind control animal husbandry system that set up the miseducation mind control that we're talking about right here, that the people are suffering from, including the digital system from DARPA, that the people think they have money. And that's why I told you before, don't fall for the digital stuff. They're doing it to get the physical out here, even though it's fiat, because they can steal it. It's not fungible, and it's not stable, but they tell you so that you can't say that they just robbed you. And they're telling you. What? So grade school, right? Grade school, they used to have on the, composition books, remember the black and white composition books, right?
Right.
And it had in the back of it, it had weights and measures. And earlier, years ago, they even had the monetary system, told you the weight of what constitutes a dollar by weight and measure of gold and silver in grade school. And today people are talking about dollars. They're not dollars. They're private commercial papers of the Circle Church and Chancery, and the people haven't been allowed to hold money since around 1964. And to cover up their criminality, this is why Nixon removed criminally in official political operations, not lawfully, what they will say is he took the dollar off the gold standard rather than saying that they robbed the people. And all of them have been operating in a state of treason, malfeasance, absolutely. That's why they got rid of Traficant when he talked too much, when he made those statements on the floor of the House of the Congress. That's why I put that on the flash drive. And I'm saying to you, all.
Now, I just heard of something with regard to silver, that the de facto IRS has a new rule going into effect March for any silver purchase on or after March 15th to start to if you purchase from anyone at least $600 worth of silver, it says, in a calendar year, that whoever you purchase that from is obligated to report to the IRS that you purchased it.
Isn't what Roosevelt right on over again? Isn't that, aren't they repeating it?
Yeah.
Isn't that
well, they're saying if you purchase $600 from Apex, then that Apex has to tell the IRS that you purchased $600, what the spot was, what you purchased it for. If you sell anything from March 15th on, they're saying you have a responsibility to know what the spot price was when you purchased that particular silver, what you sold it for, and the tax will be on the difference between the spot price and your selling price and the value at the time. I was like, what kind of bullshit?
No. Now look, now that's an emotional response.
But I had it.
No, let's get away from emotional response.
But it's just crazy.
No, it's not. Criminality is not crazy.
Oh, okay.
It's unconstitutional. Article 1, Constitution for the United States. that these people took an oath on, including all of them, that no state can coin anything or make anything but gold or silver coin for payment in debt. Now, everything they do is clear treason and misprision of treason. That statement made by the private corporation owned by the Circle Church and Chancery from Fleet Street, England, right today, represented through their subdivisional corporate entity known as the Federal Reserve, making rules against the Constitution, against the people. And if any politician don't say to the contrary exactly what I'm just now saying, they're party to it. Now, here's back. And for protection of the Aboriginal people, didn't Noble Drawley say, help me in my great missionary work to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States? Now, remember when Obama was in office, he said, talked about the Treaty of Tripoli and everything. He said, what? The American Constitution comes from Muslim law. Told you the history. How many people missed that? And he had the Moorish flag in the background while he said it. And it's on video. You can find it today. But yet, how many times we've told people that and people keep thinking, oh, that's a Moorish thing. It got nothing to do with us. It got everything to do with you. Middle-class Europeans are telling more of what Drew Ali said than many of our own people, even including people that have turbans and fezzes on who claim to be supporting it. It's all coming out right now. In other words, we're living, it's sort of like, you know how like you can show people things and you can tell people things and they think it's your opinion until it smacks them in the face? And it's no different than people will read documents, read the WASPI, read the Torah, the Tanakh, Heliotext, Septuaginta, Bible, and talk about prophecy and then don't see that they're living it. Why? It's data. They speak of it as data. And how you say people are habits and routine and don't even recognize that they're talking what they're living. It's because it's like, you know, so like, you know, like people get up in the morning and drink coffee. And after a while, they forget about that it comes from beans. And them beans are roasted and somebody picks them beans. You know, that type of thing. No different than like we always, like sometimes when we're talking, and I'm saying, even in the nature of even what you're referring to, whether we're talking about the UAPs or the Epstein files, you know, anything like that, right? You'll see that these things are affecting us right now, but they're tied to things that they didn't know about. Those things that they didn't know about is what's coming, is what's going to be coming out. And logically, the people are not going to respond the same, are they?
No.
So what'd you say about that?
No, I just said, you know, it's crazy. I mean, every day you hear something.
It ain't crazy.
I mean, no, I'm just saying this is the way I'm phrasing my thing. It's
we've been crazy for going for it.
You hear. It's so many things, you know, like you said, and you know, there's a deluge of stories that we're dealing with information overload, and you know, there's I'm seeing things about military people divulging stuff that they saw and experienced and were told not to say, but now they're saying it, and you hear the, you know, like you said, the Epstein files, the UAPs, and what elites and celebrities and who they eating or drinking. I mean, what are they, you know, the whole thing. You get all of this stuff, and you know what happened to Jim Carrey,
and
they you know, you all that stuff, and you know, all of these narratives, you know, like these narratives and viral, these stories on the internet are circulating through social media. And because, you know, I'm gonna go back to subject matter of are we being played?
Yes.
Are we being played?
Yep.
Psy-opportunities. And so is that what it is? Because it's so much coming. It's almost like you know, like you say, what you got? Well, throw it all at them. You know, you got a whole barrage of people throwing out these
so that people don't focus.
Right.
See, to scatter them.
Right.
See, and they're hitting the people with a lot of different narratives. Why? Because they've lost control narrative. You know how like it's sort of like like if you're playing chess with someone and they're considered very good or a champion, and you play them and they don't suspect that you have any
skill,
forethought, and you start winning, and they get up and bump the table to knock the chess over.
Oh, is that
it's
what they do?
Not unlike that.
Is that what they doing?
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, because sometimes it feels like
how like the game's up type thing.
You know what? Like I said, it used to take days, weeks, months, maybe even years before you hear something. Now you like it happened 15 minutes ago. There's a YouTube video because somebody had their cell phone out and they videotaped it, and somebody else did a commentary on it, what they think it was or is and gonna be. And by the time you look, whole internet is like they all got the same script, just like we saw in the mainstream media back when CV19 and all those things where you could just put on different screens of stuff and everybody talking about the same thing. Everybody talking about the same thing at the same time, and gets to the place where you don't know what to believe or what to investigate further, or should you prepare? Are they just telling me to prepare because they want to sell their generators and they their prepackaged food that lasts for 25 years, or are they telling me to get silver because they try to push? You don't know, so you have to be discerning. You have to have your they say we all. I heard a guy who was a remote viewer say everybody is what you would call psychic. Everybody has the ability to see.
They haven't been using it.
Everybody has the ability, but what fluoride in the toothpaste and in the water and all that stuff has done was to calcify, was deliberately to calcify the pineal gland, and they showed how it's such an important piece of it that the Pope walks around with a staff that has a pine cone on the end, and you'll see all the different things with the pine, because that pineal is being uncalcified and functioning as it is would let you see these things. You would know what you know because you could see what was happening behind closed doors and that distances. They would not be able to hide, throw a rock and hide their hands. You see everything. So you learn. I learn something new every day.
Now you understand when you start studying that they use the word elites, but they're really the degenerates, and that they claim to be Christians, but they're really Cretans.
Right.
And just like John 8:44, they claim to be Jews and are not Jews. What do? They go around the world, they steal identities, and then they do things in other people's names so that when the blowback comes, it comes on the people. This is no different than even when you're dealing with geography, right? And the anthropology, right? They go around the world doing things and stealing and murdering, right? And then tell the world it's America. America's a continent from the north to the south. And so we're the Americans, and they're actually hybrid Europeans who stealing America and doing things in the name of America. So the blowback, the world keeps saying America didn't do these things.
Yeah.
Khazarian
and that corporation.
Not the corp, because remember the corporation is an artificial entity. Khazarians claiming to be Jews, and who actually, because that Second World War that you see right here, that's when they set up that land. That's when they took over Palestina, right? And that whole foundation And those same people, the Rockefellers, etc., they own the United States Corporation Company that the masses are still fooled in thinking is the country. This is where the parentist mind comes in, where the people are protecting the Satanists, thinking the Satanists is their country. This is why the people can't get out of it, because their mind is blocked. They're operating off a scatterbrain and don't know it. Why? They bought into the narrative, and because they're basically intelligent, they don't believe they've been had. Now, the Epstein files will make it very clear that they've been had because it comes directly from them. It's their own notes and emails that exposes all of them, not some of them. This is why the sex thing is really being thrown out there, and the people are looking at that. That is minor. That's potato chips to the factory. A bag of potato chips to the factory. That's how ugly it is. And see, so when the people find out, not only if it's not new, and they start finding out all the missing children for all these years, that they're thinking something else. The milk cartons, all this old stuff. The very people
milk cartons were advertising. Those are advertisements for what they had available.
Yes,
they put them on the milk carton.
But when the people see how real it is, and that has been going on all the time for all these decades in their faces, and they've been taxed to support it. And they've been in their mind voting for these people when their votes never even counted. Never did. Never did. And they've been paying for it with income tax that never applied to them. And then they've been charged with what I've been telling you for years. 1917, 1919. What? Property tax that was imposed on the people to pay for that piece of land that was stolen in West Asia, and they changed the geography to twist the people's mind and call it Middle East. And the people believe there's such a location. And that's West Asia. See the mind control? See the narrative? See the scatterbrain? And it's right there.
Yeah. It's so it's a lot. It's a lot to unpack.
It is and it isn't. You know, because people live it every day, Dr. J. And so humans, the attention of humans has always been drawn to spectacles. This is why what is how they even blow up the Epstein thing? It's a spectacle. Mm-hmm. But the people are looking at something that's in the mind as a spectacle. Oh, this is so terrible. And it is, but it is nothing to what's really going on. So mysteries and controversies capture people's curiosity. The modern communication systems, right?
Yeah.
Amplify those effects dramatically. Oh, Epstein, oh, please. And remember I said to you before, he's a choir boy. Compared to what's really going on, and it ain't him. You can look at Epstein sort of like no different than you look at King Alfred as a name for their operations. It's passive. The content is what they're hiding, right? So modern communication systems amplify these effects dramatically, and when dramatic stories spread quickly, they can dominate the people's attention, and they do. Yeah. And attention is one of the most powerful forces in society, and it is because whatever attention goes, wherever their attention goes, influence often follows, and people follow the narrative. So human attention operates somewhat like a spotlight, right? Mm-hmm. And what that spotlight is focused on, like psychic focus, wherever it's directed, the perceptions of the people follow. And so these people are actually being led just like pigs with a ring in their nose and don't even recognize it, right in their faces. But when the spotlight moves constantly from one narrative to another, as you just saying earlier, right, perception becomes unstable or scattered. And environments filled with competing narratives, that's why they put all this stuff out there. You said, it's so much out there. You know, they just so that you can't be focused, right? And so it creates confusion, but it's deliberate. Pardon me, not necessarily because every story is false, but because the attention becomes fragmented. And like I said before, Executive Order 1149 issued by the United States Corporation Company owners and trustees operating on the land at North America demonstrated the negative uses of psyops, actually. And awareness of the misusage of human responses as a social engineering tool follows or allows one to apply critical thinking. And this is where opportunity comes from. So you have the opportunity to step out of that false matrix, which is also why you do your glitch, you know, and constantly think to take back the integrity of your own thoughts, which is what they're keeping you from. That's why they put all this stuff out there. And so intellectually navigate oneself more positively, you know, in, you know, your self-governance.
Yeah, like you said, but it's interesting, you know, like you said already, that you know how often these narratives appear like in clusters and groups. I mean, they don't, like I said, they, you know, we already said it, but they don't just let you, you know, sit in something for a little while and
they won't leave you alone.
That is
they
like
will not leave
before
you alone.
can, you know, sit with that, you know, like you're like, my hands are full, you know, I can't, my brain is full, you know, of all this stuff. So, you know, with the geopolitical, you know, tensions and the, you know, economic concerns, tech stuff, you know, and like I said, you're dealing with that, and then something else comes, and you know, before you can process one narrative, a new one that's propped up. So,
what do they say they do? Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
They keep throwing stimulants out there.
Right.
In other words, they say they're going to do it. They keep throwing stimulants out there. And when the people begin to analyze and see things, they throw another one out there.
Yeah.
But they always mask it by projecting it to someone else. Now, and this is back to why people, you'll see people that are falling for it. What's Trump doing today? He'll make statements that are absolutely contradictory within itself, within the same statement. That's obvious. So he's talking to you as he's saying things. He's telling you. In other words, he's telling you it's theater. So anyway, human attention is limited.
Yeah, but you never know what they say, which one it is that's talking. So they may not always get the same briefing. They may not be able to act out.
But doing it, they're telling you, if you pay attention, right?
Yeah,
so when multiple major narratives appear simultaneously, attention becomes divided, which is psyops, right?
Yeah.
And when attention becomes divided, careful examination becomes more difficult. And that does not necessarily mean, you know, every event is coordinated, but when many narratives compete or put out there to compete for the attention of the people at the same time, the psychological effect can be similar, you know. And so people begin, you know, reacting quickly rather than, you know, by paying attention, using their critical thinking. And so they respond, you know, quickly to the events that are placed before them.
And then they want to be, you know, in the know. They want to be in the conversation. So folks probably don't have time to, a lot of times, because of the speed at which things are coming, you don't have a lot of time sometimes to like I said, sit with something and
so
consider and study.
Points,
right. And so you don't want to be sitting there like the dummy in the room. So you want to get into conversation. Now you all in the mix of something that you don't even fully, you know, comprehend as what's really going on. And you got a bunch of, I shouldn't say that, but dummies, you know,
that's right,
cajoling each other with who thinks that they know more.
You know, I was earlier, I was talking actually to Sabir, and he was talking with this woman think she was, I forget what nation that she was from. I forget, but we were just loosely talking just before it came up. And she said, most of the people, the adults in North America, under United States Corporation Company, it was a European woman, says they cannot read past 8th grade, even at the college level. They're one of the most illiterate bodies of people in the modern era who think everybody else in the poorer countries are illiterate. That the literacy rate, as an example, in Mexico is 90%. The literacy rate in under United States Corporation Company is around 35 to 40%. That's documented. You know.
So when they're saying that people can't read, I was to say, we're talking about they may be able to sound it out, but they have no comprehension as to what it is, right?
Now, let's qualify. Reading does not mean the capacity to pronounce a word, the letters.
The letters, yeah.
It's the capacity to analyze, to comprehend according to denotation and connotation, which is basic grammar, right? And understanding basic etymology word groups, right?
Yeah.
Meaning what words mean, not what you connotatively are told that they mean. Right? So we're talking about even basic ontology, right? Orthology, etc. Right? Stuff like that. And structure, which is, even when we were talking earlier, and I was saying sometimes I'll be looking at stuff that, and I'll immediately see the sentence structure, and I see it. I see the mind twist, which is why you see me a lot of times, work against certain things that I'll see. But the deal of it is, she was saying or making statements on how the people here are illiterate, and yet they're arrogant with their illiteracy because they look down on other people in poorer countries, not knowing that most of their wealth is because the corrupt government steals from other people, including themselves. And the fact that they're being robbed now is the only reason why the middle class is starting to tell some of the real politics that's bringing some of the people's attention to some of these nuances of the psyops that most of the people didn't know was going on anyway. And even thinking is current. No different than we're just showing. 54. Laid out, and is what is manifesting now. And people who know geopolitics would prepare themselves because they already know what's going on, where people are busy working. And what do they always say? They keep the people busy. They keep the people busy so that the people don't recognize what's going on. And by the time that the people start figuring out, they have no power to make a change or to alter or to modify. And so the president's position is he's simply a pinata for the people who are really running him, who live in Boston and in Brooklyn.
Wow.
And who actually own the corporation. It's why sometimes I'll say, look at here. These are the three men who own the United States Corporation Company.
But what's this, when you say they own, are these three current owners, or were these the ones that succeeded it to somebody else?
Now, so now you call corporate succession.
Yeah, corporate succession.
Now, so people who understand that principle, when you give them the documents, all you need to go is go into the archives of corporate succession, and you'll see who owns it today. And what you keep finding, that the same people who own it are all Khazarians. And who are the Khazarians? People who've been pretending to be somebody that they're not. And the major operation that they hide behind politically is the word Jew. Now, this is why so much effort is put in. It's why every time someone goes into the head or the CEO of the corporation, they have to make their pledge to Israel. And people looking at it from what in their mind is a religious thing, and it has nothing to do, has everything to do with Satanism. has everything to do with human sacrifice, has everything to do with child sacrifice, has everything to do with blood drinking. All of this stuff, and it's always been, that's what they're hiding. So certain politicians are paid to be the pinata for the people to hide the degenerates who call themselves elite. So the whole issue is that come out, you not only have revolution here, around the planet, when they find out that most of the rulers and most of the alleged nation states are puppets of these very same people. Why you have the wars going on and why the people are sacrificing, the leaders never are. Because they're all partners. Now, so when you look at it, you see the real, this is why people who really understand geopolitics always seem like they're out to lunch to the average people who think they know what's going on. Who be look, oh yeah, I voted for Freddie Johnson. Oh, because he's a Democrat and he's a Republican. They're all partners. That's why I always tell people what? You want to know the politics here? Part of it? If people are talking about any of the political parties here operating on the land at North America and they don't know anything about the Whiggamore Convention of 1854, they're not qualified to talk politics. However, you say that and they take it as an insult, but you're telling the truth. Esteem. So Trump is the pinata for right now. The pinata before him, Biden. Pinata before him, Obama. And so forth and so on. They don't need to be intelligent. They're pinatas. But then if you say that to the average person who think they're intelligent, because I voted and I pay taxes, you know, it's like, so you can kind of see where we're going with this, how the average person who think that they're intelligent, they think they know the politics that are being played. So what happens? People who know this stuff, you look like the oddball, out to lunch, anti-government. And so what happened? The Khazarians will use their newspapers. It's like they wrote the article about me in 205, called me the Fourth World War. Who did that? ADL. They literally wrote an article about me. I ain't got nothing. Little old Taji guy. Jews wrote an article about me, calling me the Fourth World War, because I was writing about this stuff 30 years ago. And people looked at me like I'm out to lunch. And they're suffering from it right now. Psyops. And it ain't conjecture. Anyway.
It's
we get us here too.
Yeah, and you know that it brings, like I said, it brings us to that bigger question tonight. You know, when you do observe the geopolitical tension, and you know, as we've already talked about, the you know, the economic pressure, the change.
Why they don't teach civics?
Yeah, and the ways of what we talk about, the dramatic narratives happening all at once. It really becomes easier for people to, you know, a lot of people to feel overwhelmed. So, you know, that environment becomes noisy, as I said, and information, like I said, arriving constantly, the stories competing for your attention. But that's where the glitch mindset really becomes important. And some of you were like, glitch, but because Sheik mentioned the glitch, I want y'all to actually let me actually put
and you know what they say about
I want them to subscribe to my channel. Some of you already have, because it was the channel that was Dr. G. I think I called it Office Hours first, but we to change the name. But you really need to. It's called Dr. G Always Glitching. What is a glitch? Well, glitch deal is not only a mindset, but it's a movement. Glitch stands, and I've been on this for over 12, 13 years, and finally, you know, bringing it out in the book and, you know, and the other stuff that has been done. But glitch stands for grow, learn, inspire, teach, create, heal. So it's an acronym for action. It's an
to inspire
to
action.
It inspires
activity.
action or
Give
to
you a focus point.
give you something, but it's in a way that not only helps the one who's doing the action, but others as a result of the action, if that makes sense. Right. So, because as a glitch, I'm a glitch. Matter of fact, I'm the OG. I'm the original glitch. That's who I am. Right. OG, Dr. G, the OG. But I understand something very simple. That's just because something is loud doesn't mean it's important, or the fact that something is trending, it doesn't mean it's accurate. I mean, I throw stuff out that I hear, but it doesn't mean it's, down embedded in my heart. And, something might be labeled urgent, but it doesn't mean that here's a big one, that it deserves an emotional reaction from me, which is something that many people unconsciously get dragged into doing. Your brain is becoming overloaded because of something that you saw or you heard that may and most likely not have anything to do with you, but yet you're emotionally and energetically exhausted and drained from it, and that's where people, Grand Sheik, a lot of people find themselves,
But here's what they say about it. Hear what they say. Their own words.
They're trying to do that.
This is their words.
That's what they intend to do, right?
This is their own words.
Okay.
Executive order. Politicians hold many quasi-military jobs, the lowest being the police, which are soldiers, the attorneys, and the CPAs next, who are spies and saboteurs who are licensed, and the judges who shout the orders and run the closed union military shop for whatever the market will bear. The generals are industrialists, as these corporations. The presidential level of commander-in-chief is shared by the international bankers.
So they sit on the same level with, okay. Right.
The people know that they have created this farce and financed it with their own taxes by consent. Taxes equal consent. But they would rather knuckle under than be the hypocrites. It's not that people don't know. So remember, this is their own words, right?
Right.
Thus, a nation becomes divided into two very distinct parts: a docile subnation and a political subnation. The political subnation remains attached to the docile subnation, tolerates it, and leeches its substance until it grows strong enough to detach itself and devour its parent. That's why people are sitting around talking about, what Trump doing now? How come they sending all our taxes to Israel?
They always
and the cities are falling apart? Because they own them. Epstein files. You see what they're hiding? And that's only a part of it. It's uncomfortable. Truth is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But they rather knuckle under than be the hypocrite. And they're telling you what they're even thinking about the people. They are absolutely contemptuous of the people, aren't they?
It seems that way.
No, that it don't seem that way. That's their word.
That is what it is.
And that ain't allegedly.
Well,
anyway, so when people allow every controlled narrative to dictate their emotional state or to promote their emotional state instead of thinking, they surrender control over their thinking. But when they slow down and observe carefully, pay attention to details, and do some reading and some research for real, particularly like if you go into congressional records and stuff like that, they retain their sense of independence. The truth is, if one would employ calm observations, one has the opportunity to often see what others tend to overlook. Because calm observation reveals patterns, and patterns reveal structure.
Yeah, but again, like I said, when people, they allow every narrative to dictate their emotional state. You're actually surrendering control over your thinking. So but you have, like I said, slow down.
Don't they call it consent?
Right, but slow down and observe carefully. Then if you do that, you'll retain and regain your independence, and that's what we need. When you are the one that observes calmly, you'll be able to see what other people are overlooking. Because like he was trying to calm me down, saying don't get emotional, because emotions can take you somewhere other than where you really should be.
Because when you go there, remember, they use that as a weapon. And this is why, like when we talk about that, one of the things that need to be taught among our people is civics, because they're not aware that these people that are called government are conscious of these things that we're going through, and they are controlling it. So when you go lean to the emotions, you're playing right into their hands. You think it's your own self, and it's actually the narrative that's controlling you.
Yeah.
It's the scatterbrain operations.
Yeah.
And this is again why very few people, are willing to openly talk about Executive Order 11490, because it lays it out. It's a synopsis, but it actually lays it out.
Yeah. So, again, when I was talking about the calm, what calm observation does, it allows you really to see patterns, and it reveals those patterns. And when patterns actually reveal structure, and once you begin recognizing the patterns, something very good and interesting happens, and that you end up becoming less reactive to every headline. You'll be like, oh, there they go again, and you won't get there. You'll be less upset and anxious about these dramatic headlines that pop up, and you begin to understand that awareness isn't about chasing every narrative that appears in front of you. It's about learning how to step back, observe carefully, and think clearly. Because the more disciplined we become in our observation, the harder it becomes for confusion to control the environment around us. And ultimately, really, the greatest protection anyone can have isn't control over events, but control over their own perception of those events. Because you don't want to see what they want you to see. You want to see what it is, right? That's really what you need to be concerning yourself with. A lot of people actually don't. But
and being aware, and this is why, again, when like you say, when you observe, when you apply glitch, right? The acronym, when you apply it, and you start paying attention, and because what it does, glitch leads you to cognitively or consciously start applying critical thinking. And then you start recognizing why they don't teach civics and geopolitics with us. Also, why they did so many book burnings.
Well, like you said, they didn't want thinkers, they want workers, right?
Didn't they say it? Didn't they write that down?
Yeah.
Isn't that in the record?
Yeah.
Even when we tell people, and that's on the flash drive too, we even put their statement up on the philosophy page of the General Education Board. Them same people, it was right there. And they told you what they're going to do to the children, didn't they? So we're the children of them children.
Yeah.
And so the things that are going on right now, they planned these decades ago and put it in writing and laid it out. And we're discussing it now. What's 2026? Anyway, so
right.
So like we appreciate everyone who continues to support the House of Reawakening Minds too.
Yeah, but before you go there, Grand Sheik, before we close tonight, because we almost into our time, Greg. I want to share a couple of updates, because if I don't share the updates in the middle before we get to the end, folks will they'll get off, right? Yeah. So I want to share just a couple updates.
When's Teaching Jay coming?
Well, that's what I'm telling. So for anybody who follows us here at House of Reawakening Minds, especially those of you who come, get in your vehicles and travel here or fly here from near and far. I mean, we even had a sister last year fly in from the UK for a Friday night class, right?
Yep, flew in.
We flew in from the United Kingdom.
Well, a couple years ago, one came in on a helicopter.
Somebody came on a helicopter?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I missed that one. But anyway, here's a couple of updates for y'all. These are important. Our monthly, as he just asked, our monthly Fourth Friday in-person civics class is returning Friday, or resuming Friday, March 27th, which is, a few weeks from now, at 7 p.m. and doors open at 6:30, and weather permitting, because we're still in the funny weather stage here in March. And they start talking about more snow.
Well, you all know what they're doing.
Yeah, we know they're making it and all that stuff, but whether they decide to or not, we don't know. So let's, we'll let you know on our website. And as you know, like I said, these classes are designed to help you better understand civics, jurisdiction, and the structures that Grand Sheik, teaches that shape society that we live in. So they're hosted by Grand Sheik and myself, and along with guest facilitators like Teaching Lady J and others. We hope to, be bringing a few others in, just to have some variety in the teaching. However, and this is important because we mentioned it on the last session, so I want to get this out there. The real New Year celebration that we had planned for the 28th, which would have been the next day after that, coming back from our with our civics class, which, those of you want to see and meet Grand Sheik and myself in person, you need to come on the 4th Friday. So 27th will be here.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Right. But that March 28th celebration has been canceled. It's, because instead, Grand Sheik,
so much going on.
We made a decision that we need to be focusing our energy on, one, preparing for maximum participation during our 4-day August gathering.
So we'll use that.
Yeah, so we want y'all there. It would have been nice that we'll celebrate a little bit that we actually, the last day when we have our Sister Deborah doing her Tai Chi class or whatever, Qigong, we get a really serious, opportunity. But we don't know what, we may have a little celebration during that because we extended it by a day, actually, because we used to start on Friday. So now this year, like last year, we're going to start on Thursday. So we have 4 days. And so you'll be seeing, how you can get your tickets for that. And we want you to come to that, right? And also
post that, so for clarity, make sure that they.
Yeah. So the 28th has been canceled, not postponed, has been canceled. And we want to see you between August 27th and 30th when we have that 4-day gathering. But also, the celebration was not only the new year, it was going to celebrate our official Grand Sheik, as you know, turned 80 on the 14th on Valentine's Day. And yours truly will be 7. I'll be 17 on this. Oh, okay, turn it around. I'll be 71 on the 17th. I'm getting it wrong. Of this month, and we were going to put all that together, and New Year, the real New Year, and our solar returns and all that stuff. But we have to do what makes better economic sense, and that we,
and Tommy for people.
Of course, let me see. They look. I shouldn't even say this. I have it in my calendar. I have this in my I gotta find this in my phone, y'all, so I can give y'all the right date. This is stupid. Y'all be like, Dr. G, you are terrible, retarded. But I got it in my calendar. Look, August. So what's our date? Okay, I see it. It says something. Okay, so, and the event that we're having in August is provided that the event that they claim on the internet was going to happen on August 12th. They said that the Earth is going to lose gravity for 7 seconds, and everything going to fly up, and when it fall down. So if we survive August 12th, y'all. So I'll stay in the house just in case it's true. On the August 12th, don't go out. I got no look. Is it in my calendar? What it say? Where it at? What does it say? What it say? What does it say? Don't go out today. Gravity event. So if the gravity event is bullcrap, we hope it is, and we're gonna believe it is. we will have our August 27th through the 28th event, and we want you to be a part of that. So,
Yeah.
But we also want to say that for those of you who still wish to, and thank you for the additional things, the ones that came sent something in, but to extend appreciation and recognition of our Grand Sheik's 80th. So
thank you all.
And my upcoming 71st. So you certainly can do that. We appreciate any kindness you want to extend to us. We don't ask for anything, but we do appreciate being appreciated.
Yeah.
So you can actually do that if that's what you choose to do. That's the announcement. Now you go ahead and do it.
Yes. Anyway, we always appreciate people.
Yes.
And we do as much as we can to really help people break the mental spells that we've been under. That see, when you even though the operators and owners of the United States Corporation Company have deceived the people. As a matter of fact, they deceived the whole world for the most part.
Doesn't that sound familiar, like Satan?
Because it is. They're Satanists. It's all there. It's always been there. It's that the people, look. If someone gives you, how they used to say, give somebody a post-dated check or something like that, right? What are prophecies? Prophecies are future checks for the people. They've been giving it in astrological projections, which they call prophecy. They were told how to recognize who Satan was. They said, what? It's a man. His number is 666, son of perdition. Get Thessalonians get on the throne, claim to be God, i.e., exceptional people. Claim to be somebody that they're not. Exceptional nation when they're really a corporation. Claiming to be Jews and they're not Jews. They're claiming to be Americans and they're not Americans. They use their corporation and they've been going to and fro the earth, destroying, you can call it devouring, nations. Is why nationality as a principle has been depressed and suppressed. And so the people that they conquered, what did the first thing they do? They denationalize them. That's what the brand system is for. That's what the straw man is for. That's what the black codes are for. It's all there. Now, they come and they claim to be gods of the earth, don't they? And are offended and disallow anyone to what? Buy or sell unless they get a license from them. And what do they claim to be God? What is God? Government ordnance departments. It's an acronym.
Gold, oil, and diamonds too.
Same thing. And drugs. That's their and it's all there. But the people's concepts of how to look at it is incorrect. If you understand.
Right.
And so as the people begin to, how to say, someone comes along, throws a glitch in it. This is why they got to keep the people scattered with constant narratives. Relative to divine law that doesn't recognize person or station, some people will call it cause and effect. Some people call it karma. This is why they will tell things so that you can't say they didn't tell you.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and it's right there.
Mind control in America.
If a group of men gain control of the major news media, that's the narrative, right? The educational system, John D. Rockefeller, Frederick T. Gates, 1902, they would have great control of the words, connotative, denotative, we use, would they not? And when you control people's words, what it say, word, first there was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. Isn't it right there?
And the word became flesh.
You control their thoughts. When you control their thoughts, you control their minds. When you control their minds, you control their bodies. Is such a group gain control of our minds? Should we expect them to take full-page ads across the country and inform 200 million heavily armed citizens of their accomplishment? Now you understand Epstein more and more. Whoever controls the volume of money, which is the fiat in any country, is absolute master of all commerce and industry. President Garfield. They killed him, didn't they?
Oh, did they kill him too?
Yes.
I went over that.
You got it.
I don't know. I didn't know what I was getting up this back then. I thought let's kill Lincoln.
You got to understand the
Yeah, they
politics.
killed Kennedy.
Garfield, Kennedy.
Yeah.
You got to.
Lincoln.
And so the point that I'm making, Dr. G, they document their history.
Right.
People don't take it serious.
Yeah.
Because it's so out there. It's so extreme. Oh, they wouldn't do that. They're Christians.
Cretans.
Yes.
Yeah, Cretan, yeah. Anything else you want to add before we close?
Anyway, we want to thank you all for we chop things up.
Right.
And so we appreciate everyone, who contributes and who continues to support the House of Reawakening Minds,
Right.
I know because I'll be seeing you working. The work you put in, don't think it goes unnoticed, because it does, and you appreciate it.
Right.
So we appreciate people supporting the House of Reawakening Minds.
Right.
And keep in mind that awareness grows strongest when communities come together in the spirit of learning. And this is another reason why, you really got to dig and bring out things that people don't pay attention to.
Right.
Because that gives them focal point. And that is the glitch.
Yeah.
Because it's there, but how do you say, take people who are willing to use their psychic abilities to point out the things that people don't pay attention to. And that's how you get out of the matrix. You got to, how they put scatter things. They put a lot of stuff out there. And when you start looking at the primal things and separating it from the distractions, that's what they don't want. But that's the glitch.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, that we thank everyone who joined us. And so that you don't get played, just remember that you must be observant and ask the right questions in order to reach accurate conclusions. And remember, when noise gets louder, the glitch, we get calmer.
Chill out.
We chill.
Pay attention to details.
Peace and love. And if you haven't already done so, I saw a couple people say, to ask you to do so in the chat. But if you haven't already done so, please be sure to like and share this video. And I'm gonna say this, a little pet peeve, Grand Sheik.
Mm-hmm.
We have been stuck at 42,000 subscribers for like a couple of years, like almost 2 years now. Where the rest of y'all? Why have y'all not?
They suppressing the numbers.
Yeah, or something. Because I don't know what's going on.
Look,
but if you're not subscribed, if you happen to be one of the ones that
Dr. J, one thing that I noticed, because because most of the time I'm busy and you're busy, and a few times I've just checked, and particularly like if I'm talking to my daughter or my nieces sometimes, and they'll bring up something and they'll call me. Their friends want to say hi to me, something like that, and I'll see numbers and go on it later, and the numbers drop back. It's deliberate. What you should.
But this is a difference between views though and subscribers. So we've been stuck at the 42 point something for such a long time, and then there's other folks that they just, they don't say anything about nationality and stuff like that, but they just doing reaction videos and they got 1 million people. We don't need 1 million, but I know that it's more.
Design.
Yeah,
See,
it's been stuck there.
No,
so if
you
you have,
remember.
but if you, let me say this before you say. So if you have subscribe to this channel, make sure you go over to Dr. G Always Glitching. I'll put it up again. And subscribe there, because we really need to know that what we're doing is something that you all want, and y'all probably have noticed we don't come on twice a month like we used to. I mean, we need, finances and stuff a little, wonky at times. So we know we understand that, So, but we have to pull back. But we are doing 2 events, one live on the first Friday, and then the 4th Friday in person. So are we giving you, and I might be doing some other things throughout the, month, just where it's just me or somebody else coming on. We're going to start doing the always glitching, and we need you to be subscribed. We need you to know when we're coming on, because some stuff that's going to go on over there, you're going like, oh, wow. Like Grand Sheik says, there's a lot more to what's happening here than meets the eye. And I'm willing to talk about it always here. So, we'll be doing some more of the ones that we do where it's unfiltered, where you just have to log in here.
And as you already know, we can only say but so much, because the Khazarians are shadow banning. He said a lot, which is really what's happening.
But it's allegedly
shadow banning. So we can't, but you already know why.
Right.
And this is another reason why, we've got to have like people come out to the house where you can be more open, and we can be more detailed in information. But at the same time, this is why, like a lot of times, Dr. G, when people may call you and say they want to talk to me, and I say they should go to the flash drive. I've already told them. And so just like this, right? What better affirmation do you need from them to tell you themselves?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when we tell them, they think it's just coming from us, when we're really exposing their own words. But because it's so outlandish.
Thank you for that subscription. Someone just said they just subscribed. Appreciate that.
It's so when the people find out what's really going on, it's so unsettling. So you can understand why sometimes people keep thinking it's only our thing.
Thank you. Another one who subscribed. Appreciate that.
But the deal of it is, the more you look at what's going on, the more you'll understand even why over the years I've been so critical and defensive about Noble Drali's real mission and the Moorish Temple of Science and the civic nature that people keep avoiding, but you also know why. Then you also know, when you look at the FBI papers and the infiltration, then you understand the sellout. And even when you look at the geopolitics, people who wouldn't even make the relationships would have another view on what's not told about the real reason they assassinated Malcolm X when he found out. So the whole story about everything changes. What's the narrative that's in the public? You see right past it. This is why a lot of times people, just like when Khalid start telling people they're Moors, then people look at his so-called demise differently than what the public narrative is. And this is why, like, people who really are internal, why years pass, and often you'll see somebody come out with an expose 20 years later, and then you see information that was always there but never respected or appreciated. And that the general narrative that's always to the public, 90% of the time, is a lie and a diversion and a distraction. And then you can understand why, in the nature of starting to heal humanity, why glitch is really so important.
It's a lot. I really want to share glitch with you all. I want to really lay it out. We're going to have a section of the of the website, houseofyourawakeningminds.org. We actually have 2 websites, one that's been in progress and one that we've had up, made for 2 really. And the new one is any day going to go live. And the other thing that's on that one, we have merchandise on there, things that you can get. I have posters, different sayings, glitch, my writings and glitch, some of the stuff there. We will be doing a separate glitch website, but for right now we have a section on the new website where you'll be able, especially depending on their membership level. And that's another thing. You could become a supportive member. I wouldn't even go in there, but you could become a supporting member of House of Reawakening Minds for as little as $3.33 notes, 3.33 notes, 3.33 notes. We have these 3.33, 5.55, 7.7, and we have all the way up to where we have our 40, the ones that have been supporting us, and we cannot. I don't think we'd be able to function without those ones. A few that do that, 41. There's one individual that gives 50 a month, and we people think we don't have salaries and stuff, but what we have is a building down the street. We had to keep the heat on all winter. Had to keep it running because we were our building. Cynthia didn't realize this till the other day. I was talking to her. Our building. We have one floor and then we have a basement. But when you come in on the first floor, you are at 3/4 to a half of the building is underground. Yeah. The first floor is underground, and it wasn't until we did the renovations and they had to dig out, open up the wall and
we had the back door.
Back door. But we're like up to what, my neck? Yeah. At least maybe. Is below ground, and you're on the first floor. So with the we had to keep the building heated to the point that pipes wouldn't burst and things like that. We still got to pay utilities. We still got to pay all those different things. We still got to do that. And so even if nobody's in there doing anything, we got to pay over 100 plus notes for the internet. And that we only use when when there, but if you're so-called we gotta have internet access and different things. So we are kicking
now
water bills.
And then look at this. Anyway, shout out to Dr. Pruitt.
Yes, sis.
And Sheik Bey.
Yes.
Yeah. And even when you were talking about the tax. See, this is now notice these things. That's how they've been keeping us down. You got, and even like people don't know that these are weapons. They're not lawful, and that the people that they've been calling government are actually trustees for the Circle Church in Tantra. And the people think we just saying that to say that because they think that slavery is over. They don't even understand that our debts, the property tax, everything is going to Israel. That's what they did it for. That's right after the Second World War that you seen right here, that they're talking about here. When they did the property tax, that was to fund the Balfour operations. Wow. And guess who still runs it to today? England, Fleet Street, England still runs it today.
Wow. Yeah. Somebody mentioned super chats where civic class, you don't have to sign up for them on the fourth Friday. Just show up. For Friday, doors open at 6:30, and we had to put until because we never get out of there. Sometimes sometimes it's in the AM before we get out of there. 1 o'clock in the morning. They folks don't want to leave 1 and 2. So
But the interesting thing, glitch, the real spiritual heart meaning function of glitch is really manifesting the need for you to really push it, right? And it's like evidence, right? It's so evident.
So that's coming up. I want to see how many subscribers we get over there. Where's y'all located? We are located in Wilmington, Delaware. But if you will go to our website, let me just put this up. Somebody asked me to have them back on my show. They have something to share. You know who you are. I don't know who you are. I don't recognize that.
Text me so she'll know.
Yeah, so text me because I don't know who you are from that picture. So what did I want to say? Oh, okay. So you want to know where we are? Please go to our current website. It says www.houseofreawakeningminds.org, and our address is located there. Dates for the upcoming civics classes on there, and all of that is right there. Like I said, and when we switch over to the new website, it will be the same URL. It's just going to be it's going to be I guess it will be switching where it's pointing to, but it's going to be the same URL, so you don't have to remember anything else. But if you want to know where we're located, it's 602 Vandever Avenue, Wilmington, Delaware, 19802. But that is on our website. And I think,
and remember, and this is again, like from the nature principle of truth. This is why, like the Romans changed the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when they talk about January the 1st, Janus,
right?
First, that's the Roman fiscal year. That's when they tally up all of what they've taken in from conquest, and they tally up their financial records of the chancery.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's called the fiscal year. But the true new year is March the 21st. That's called the vernal equinox, i.e. spring. It's also referred to as Astarte, is also referred to as star in the east, eastern star. And that's when you'll see the crescent and the star, Venus, in the eastern sky, actually in nature. That's the real new year.
Yeah. So
it's called vernal equinox.
Mm.
And in the ancient world, they call it Astarte. And in secret society, they call it Esther. In the Bible, they call it Esther also.
Mm-hmm. Esther.
Mm-hmm. Esther.
Right.
Well,
so
that's the real culture. But people need to know it's cosmology. So when they're saying more science, they're saying cosmology. In other words, I'm telling you what more science is, because people hear the phrase. Because remember, more science is a phrase.
Mm.
It's a phrase.
Okay.
It is cosmology culture.
Okay.
It is trigonometry, mathematics, the numbers 0 to 9, the Aramaic alphabet, A to Z, i.e., and astrology, cosmology comprises Moorish science.
Okay, y'all. Well,
because people keep hearing the term, but very few people will tell them what that phrase means.
Yeah.
Because most of the time people think it's a religion. No, it's not.
Right.
It's culture.
Right. Well, listen, we could go into a whole nother teaching, but we're not going to do that.
No, I'm just putting that in there because,
okay,
because
but
when
please,
we open
if
up,
you
you always say
can
that.
come, those of you who can get to Delaware, close to Delaware, we don't want you to put out a whole lot to get here, but if you like within driving distance, how do you contact Taj Tarik Bey directly? You got to come to a 4 Friday event, or you have to come in August, but we don't, Grand Sheik, it would be bombarded. He's bombarded enough. So he doesn't do any kind of personal consultations as folks are, but if you're at one of our live events, that's why we never get out till after 1 o'clock in the morning, because people, take that time really, Grand Sheik, to ask you the questions and running questions and whatever. So unfortunately, we don't do. You're not gonna pop that, are you?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. He got some bubble things. I thought he was gonna pop it.
No, I'm not.
But yeah. So please, I know y'all want to, but I don't, give his number out, and he never rests, So
I don't have no time to myself. As it is, actually.
And he's recognized wherever he comes here on the train, and they see him on the train.
And for those who wonder sometimes, that's why a lot of times I stopped wearing my vest, because I couldn't even walk the street. I get on a bus. When I used to fly, people from different countries would stop talking to me when I take pictures. I couldn't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times you see me dressing down, that's deliberately. Mm-hmm. I try not to attract attention. Mm-hmm. To be, so for those who wonder,
yeah.
So why don't I have a special? That's why.
Incognito, y'all, allegedly. But anyway, this has been wonderful. And like I said, for those of you who didn't hear the very beginning of this, before we were a few minutes late getting started because I was freaking out. I was literally having a mini meltdown because the sound went, the picture went,
computer was glitching.
Yeah,
you get it straight and then it glitch again.
It was like, so I was like, and so we, but just in the nick of time,
I think they're looking at you through the, I said through the looking, they call it the looking glass.
Through the looking glass. We gonna
That's what
stop this issue. They don't need to be talking about that because we don't know what they're gonna be saying.
They're talking about the Epstein, the real Epstein files.
Yeah. Right.
Some of it, because that ain't a little bit, but we've given people some keys to go look at it.
Okay. Okay. Realize what it is.
Look, for those also, look at Executive Order 11490. That'll give you a little bit of what's they're hiding.
I don't know whether you're asking me to ask Grand Sheik whether or not he has a plate that people can get for an automobile, or if he has a plate for his own automobile. Because that's what you're asking.
I did, yeah. I said, yeah.
But right now
you
don't also have automobiles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
now all of those things we had in place, but the people themselves have to start enforcing the Constitution. Because remember, we did that for years. I used to have plates on I had 5 cars, and I had plates on all of them. And we were operating for about 3 years. Then this is what they did. They used a black budget with the Gazarians through, they set up this program they called Youth Task Force to hide their operations. And then they started stealing our stuff and putting people through jail and all that stuff to block it, even though in private or in conversation, they was telling them they know we were right. They even had, let me tell you something. They even had a meeting at City Hall in Camden, New Jersey, and cleared the room with the detectives and everything. And they had their lawyers in there, and they literally told us that they know we're right, but they got to do their job. Yeah. And that's the truth. What? And so what was happening, and I spent so much time going around the different states, getting people out of jail, constitutionally. And what they do, they call it burning our energy, meaning that know we were right, but keep us going back and forth to court and burning us out. Okay, we're gonna go, but we'll talk about that. But here's one more question, because Jesus Christ wants to know. That's what it said. What about the war with Iran? Jesus, you should know if you Jesus. That's part of the Unum Sanctum operations. You know it is. You know it is. The hegemony is being dismantled. Look at couple of sessions earlier when we talked about the satanic operations being interrupted. We're telling you. You gotta understand they're Satanists. They're proving what we've been telling the people. They themselves are proving to you what we've been telling you for 50 years. They're showing it now. In other words, they're not even wasting their time programming anymore. They're just opening up and just F you, and you're going to do it or we're going to hurt you. That's what they're doing. In other words, they're taking off remember we talked 7 years ago, or street. All masks are off. Go look at old videos. I told you. In other words, they're revealing themselves. And and this is why they're sanctioning anybody that talks, even though it's obvious. And they're telling you, don't say certain names, while they're screwing you right to your face. And this is what's getting a lot of people upset with Donald J. Trump. What I tell you about 5 years ago, I said Trump is assigned, didn't I? Mm-hmm. He's assigned. You need to know the assignment. He's dismantling and minimalizing the chaos that comes with it. He's a pinata, but it ain't him. The people that own that platform that he's operating on, most of them live in Boston and in Brooklyn, New York, including the real ones who are running the war in Ukraine and in Palestine, and now in Persia, Iran, Persia. You gotta go in the time warp and start calling things and people who they. You need to know the real history to see what's going on now. Then is now, and now is then. Remember, they have the people mentally in the time warp. But those who know better know that the wars and the crusades never ended. These people just forgot who they are. If you want to kind of know what's going on, look up Hannibal Barker Bay, look up the Punic Wars, the Crusades, the Battle of Poitiers near France, 72, right?
1782.
Yeah. And you'll see what's going on now. When mentally they have disconnected you in the time warp, you don't see yourself today because you forgot who you are then. Non pro tonk, now for them.
Okay, we finished. You finished?
Remember, most of you are psychic. You just forgot that you are.
That's right.
Remember what we told you before. Respect your intuitive mind. Now that Saturn and Uranus are partnering, all the world is waking up. This is why you see them radically doing all the things they're doing, because they know it's time is up. That's why you don't attach to any of these institutions and operations that are now, because you know they're being dismantled. They can't stop it. It's out of their hands. So they're trying to destroy as much as they can. That's referred to in the Bible as Satan taking as many down with him as he can. In other words, he knows he's done, so he's trying to take as many people down with him. That's why you don't invest in anything that he's doing. If you do, you've been had.
All right, we go. With that, we're going to be going.
Have a grand evening. Islam, assalamu alaikum, shalom, body makem, bon abort.
QR code up in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. You scan that, it'll take you to our web page, houseofreawakeningminds.org. And we thank you for your time. We thank you for your time and your attention.
This is not merely a building. It's a sanctuary of remembrance, a threshold where the veil parts, and minds once lulled to sleep begin to rise. This is the house of reawakening minds.
I entered in silence, intellect, and despair, seeking refuge from illusions thick in the air. Walls lined with scrolls, lectures dense with light, where knowledge resurrects what was hidden from sight. No pulpit performance, no charismatic show, just a word in its purity, allowing the soul to grow. History unpacked with surgical precision, exposing falsehood, restoring vision. They taught me jurisdiction, the power of a name, how to stand in one's truth, free from legal games, from colonial codes to Moorish descent. I learned that ignorance is the true imprisonment. Not just a church, this is consciousness refined. I found myself inside the house of.
This is sacred ground, not just wood and stone. A haven for the seekers who once felt alone. Here the veil is lifted, the contract unwinds. In the house of reawakening minds. Truth is the altar, wisdom is the flame. Every soul remembered, every bloodline reclaimed. Time collapses and the spirit aligns inside the house of reawakening
We speak of
light.
capitals, diminution, and trust law with grace. Pulling veils from the statues that distort the race. Reverend Doctor don't preach, she teaches through metaphysical keys and universal speeches. From Egypt to Amexim, maps are redrawn, and the minds of the lost are profoundly reborn. They decode etymology, undo the brands, expose how black was a corporate sleight of hand. This is reclamation through language and tone, when status is corrected and sovereigns are grown. From natural law to the astrological signs, the cosmos converge in these sacred confines. This ain't dogma, it's the science of the divine. Every lecture a seed in the garden of the
You
mind.
said know thyself but gave no guide until I found the house where illusions died. Here the soul remembers, the contract is clear. We are the heirs and the ancestors cheer. This is sacred ground, not just wood and stone. A haven for the seekers who once felt alone. Here the veil is lifted, the contract unwinds. In the house of reawakening minds. Truth is the altar, wisdom is the flame. Every soul remembered, every bloodline reclaimed. Time collapses and the spirit aligns inside the house of reawakening.
They don't ask you to believe, only to remember. You are not lost, you've simply been rendered. Redacted by systems, misclassified by law. But the house restores what the paper man saw. It's not just theology, it's the restitching of fate. The alignment of cosmos with your birthright state. Genealogy meets metaphysics, past meets now. The veil is a lie and this house shows how. They speak a treaty, jurisdiction and name. That being black was never a rightful claim. They restore divine memory through patience and fire. Raising minds from bondage in the conscious empire. No choir needed when the frequency's high. It's the house where illusions die.
House of reawakening minds, where scholars become sages and the forgotten reclaim the eternal.